What is going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Tonight we're going to be going over a couple of final things on dead plates here. So if you are new to the channel, this is my 1978 Cherokee Chief that I'm building for the BleepinJeep BeastWars. I literally have everything that I've done to this Jeep so far on my channel. I have a playlist. It's called Dead Plates. That's what I've been calling it because I have license plates all over it. So the BleepinJeep BeastWars is a $5,000 budget build rock crawling competition that BleepinJeep is hosting. A bunch of YouTubers applied for it, and I think there's 8 of us that got in. We're going to be putting these rigs head to head in a competition, trying to see which one outperforms the other one. I leave for this competition in less than a week. I really had to lock in and focus and get this thing done and ready to go. So I had to put the camera down and get some stuff done. And let me show you what I did. So you might see that my shop is an absolute mess right now, and that I've got the tube bender out, I've got some DOM in the floor, and then I've got my chop saw. And check out what I did. So like I said, I did this off camera just solely because I'm out of time. And I didn't have time to be setting up the camera, talking to the camera, making sure it was in focus, this, that, and the other. And then the big part is the editing. I don't have time to edit this before we leave. And I wanted this to come out after we left. So long story short, I built an extension on this roll cage. This is 1 3/4 DOM. And which is basically your pretty much standard roll cage that people put in rock crawlers and stuff like that. And of course I came back and painted it with some Rust-Oleum. What this roll cage consists of is it hooks to a factory TJ roll cage that I cut down, I sleeved, I made it stronger, and then I plated it, and it goes to the frame down there. What I did with this roll cage for the front, so I drilled a hole in the floor, license plates, it was pretty much rusted, so I just pretty much pushed it through. And now I've got it where it lands on the slider here. But the roll cage was fairly simple. I just used my swag off-road bender over there that I have on my Harbor Freight cart. And with that swag off-road bender, it made it super simple to make this roll cage. I knew I wanted to do some type of V for the front, but I know everybody kind of does like a straight V. So I just decided to put a little bit of a bend in it just to kind of make it look different, I guess. And you might say, well, that makes it less strong. Well, you're probably right. So I've been told by a couple of different people that the less bends that you have in a cage, the stronger it is. That's probably true, because so basically whenever a tube is bent, of course it would be stronger if it was straight, but if it's bent, it just wants to bend even more. So I think it'll be fine. Like I said, it's just an accessory. This is just a brace for the front. I know sometimes people don't even put these V's in there, but I thought it looked cool. What do y'all think? I'm digging the front roll cage, and it's gray. It's like 50 shades of gray. Not in the good way. And like I said, full transparency, I just didn't have time to record myself. Honestly, I didn't really want to. I just wanted to go ahead and just knock this cage out and not have to worry about camera angles and lighting and stuff like that. So that's what we got. You can see the little V right there. But going back and looking at all my videos that I put in this playlist, I realized that I really haven't talked about the pricing. So with this BleepinJeep BeastWars, like I said, it's got a $5,000 limit. And to keep everybody honest, we may have to sell these vehicles for $7,000. So if we get to the competition, I don't know if it's going to be at the beginning or the end, if somebody offers me $7,000 for dead plates here, I have to sell it for $7,000. So with that being said, that's going to keep everybody honest to the point where they don't bust up in there with like a rock buggy or like a 392 JLU on tons and 42s and Trepidors and stuff like that. Is to really just keep it a fun, fair fight for everybody. And I realized that I haven't gone over any of the pricing on this build. So that's what we're gonna do tonight. So I know what a lot of people may be saying is that, well, you probably got a lot of stuff sponsored, or you probably already had that laying around the shop. And a lot of it is true. Yeah, I did have a lot of parts around the shop, and I did already have the Jeep in my possession whenever I started this competition build. I already had the Jeep and everything like that. So I am incorporating all of that stuff inside of this $5,000, just so that, say if I wanted to build this Jeep exactly the way I did this one, or if you wanted to build your Jeep, if you wanted to build a full-size Jeep just like this one for less than $5,000, you know, how could you do it? And that's basically what I have right here. I may have forgot some stuff, and I didn't really go into like the taxes and the shipping and stuff like that. I just kind of kept it bare bones just to make it simple, and that way it would probably keep it, you know, a little less than the 5,000. But like I said, I'm trying to be fully transparent. I'm not trying to bullcrap anybody or anything like that. I've never really lied on YouTube before or done anything to make it more dramatic. But what I've always kind of tried to tell myself is that if you are honest from the get-go, then you won't have anything to apologize for in the future. So, like that being said, let's go ahead and go through all of the expenses. So the first thing, I bought this Jeep from a good friend of mine that he had it on his like family farm for years, and I paid $500 for the Jeep. And it did come with a lift. It came with like some 33s or 32s or something. And I did get it running, but the gas tank, these came with I call them the coffin tanks, and they are completely metal and they always rust. I mean, whenever I dropped that tank, I could push my thumb through the top of it. That's how bad it was. But I bought the Jeep for $500. And let's see. All right, the next thing is the tires. So the tires that I got, obviously I got them used. I got them off Marketplace. The guy was asking like 800 bucks or something, but I got them down to $600. They are a 38-inch Super Swamper TSL for a 16-inch wheel. And they, on the date code on them says like 2015, so they're like 10 years old. So they're kind of old, but I still think they're good. They're not too terribly hard. I think getting a set of Super Swampers for 600 bucks, I think that was a pretty good deal. The wheels I have are a Mickey Thompson Classic, I think they're called Classic 2s, but they are a 16-inch Mickey Thompson. I think they're 9 inches wide. They're obviously for a 6-lug wheel. And what I did was, you may can see, like right there, there's some gunk or something. So I pretty much took some black liquid nail and put on the inside of the wheel on the front, on the outside and the inside, to act as a redneck beadlock. Instead of beadlocks, I'm just running these, and hopefully they'll stay on the wheel. But I paid $100 for these wheels. They were actually behind Patrick's barn or something at his house. So now I need to show you where I spent most of the money. I got my hood prop right here. I actually found this piece of metal in the back of the Jeep somewhere. So, I mean, it works pretty good. Obviously, I cut the hinges and stuff out. So, whenever I first started working on this, I knew I wanted to go with a fuel injection system on this. I know I've kind of talked about this in my last couple of videos where, yeah, I could have put an off-road carburetor on here, but I really didn't want to. I wanted to just be able to hop in it at no matter what angle the Jeep was at, know that it would crank up every time. So I didn't want to mess with the carburetor, so I got a fuel injection kit from BJ's Off-Road, and I believe it was around $1,400. So that took a huge chunk of the budget out. But I think it'll be well worth it once I am on the trails and I don't have to worry about, you know, carburetor doing carburetor things.
I think the carburetor just needed a little fine tuning. Crank it gently.
The next thing that was a big investment was this DUI distributor. So these things work really good with the fuel injection system, and they put out a lot more voltage than the factory ones or even an upgraded one that would just, bolt right in, even though this one bolted right in. But it works perfect with this fuel injection system, and it came with like these live wire spark plug wires, and I got clear so I can look in there and see what's going on if I have any issues. The DUI distributor, I want to say it was $400 and something. I want to say it was like $415 or something like that. The next thing was the brake system. I did replace the master cylinder and the slave cylinder there, and those together were around $250, something like that. These are off of a J20. I got these from Rock Auto, and so I got a pretty cool discount with those. And then the radiator, I actually reused this radiator. This is the one that came in it because it was pretty good. And then the transmission cooler, my buddy Stephen Key, he gave me that. And then the old transmission cooler, I turned into a power steering cooler. So didn't really spend any money there. I did make some new ground wires. I just wanted to make sure that this thing was grounded correctly like it was supposed to be, and I'm not fighting corrosion or anything weird like that. But since we're on the subject of the fuel system, I'll go over the next thing is the fuel tank. So I got this for like $100 off Amazon, and it came with a bunch of fittings. It came with a bunch of hose. The next thing on my list is the suspension. So to be honest with you, I have about $400 in this suspension. SkyJacker really hooked it up and provided me with the best leaf springs that I think that this thing could have, and the shocks. Then these brackets right here, Patrick actually gave those to me. Though they wouldn't be necessary if you were trying to build one like this, but because I had like some homemade stuff on the back, I had to use them just to give this shackle a little bit more of a degree right there. So I'm just going to chalk up the whole suspension to around $400. The next thing would be these sliders. I paid $300 for these sliders. The sliders are off of a 3rd gen 4Runner, and I just used some scrap metal and got them welded onto the Jeep. Super, super beefy and super strong. And they look really cool. And they follow the body line like so perfect. Like that. I love that right there. The tube doors, I couldn't even tell you how much those are. I've had these for over 10 years just sitting in my barn. And they had like a bunch of bird poop and stuff on them. But these were off of my WJ. And to be honest with you, I don't know how much they were when I paid for them 10 plus years ago. So I'm not going to put those in because I don't know how much they were. I'll be honest with you. And they're probably one of those like unnecessary things, but I don't know. Adams hooked me up with the rear drive shaft. I actually found I think it is a rear XJ drive shaft for the front. So I already had that one in my scrap pile and just made sure the U-joints were good, and they were. And the rear drive shaft, I'm going to say around $300 to $350. I will say $350 for the rear drive shaft. So the next biggest expense was the gears and lockers. I'm running a Spartan locker in the front and the rear of this thing. And those were around, I think I paid around $200 for those, front and rear. So that would be $400 for lockers. And then the gears, I've actually got nitro ring and pinion 513s in this. And if you go back and watch me install those, I didn't use new bearings. I didn't use new seals, which is highly not recommended, but this is a rock crawler and it's not gonna see any much highway. And I really wasn't concerned about the bearings. I did inspect them and make sure that they weren't like pitted, or the races weren't pitted or anything like that. And they were fine. The seals weren't leaking much. So I just installed the old bearings and the seals. I just left them alone. And that probably saved me, $400, $500 right there. But definitely not recommended, but it kind of happened. But the gears were $175 for the rear and $175 for the front. The next thing that I bought for this was this Harbor Freight Badland winch. I got it on sale at my local Harbor Freight, and I paid around $350 for this winch. This winch plate was already on here, and what I did was I just cut it up, moved it back, and moved it up because it was super low and super far out. I wanted to keep this just because it had like a Teleco vibe to it, and that's kind of what I've been really doing with this thing, was making it look like something that would be on the trail at Teleco, you know, 10 something years ago. And then of course I've got my helper Pickle here. He was free. I'm really not even sure whose cat this is, but he likes to hang out in the shop, especially when I weld. But we're not gonna add him to the allowance. So with adding everything up, it may sound like a lot, but a lot of this was just, hey Pickle, but a lot of this was just welding, cutting, and grinding. I didn't fix a lot of stuff that I probably should have, like the rust holes in the floor. I didn't fix those. I just put license plates over them. I did dove nose the front, and that just took time and, you know, little pieces of metal and stuff like that. Whenever I chopped the top off of it, I didn't really buy any metal. I just literally just cut it and slid it over. And then when I bobbed the back right here, I didn't have to buy any metal. I just moved it up, and then when I stretched the rear wheelbase, all I did with that was I just flipped those SkyJacker leaf springs around, and that gave me like a 5 or 6 inch stretch there. So a lot of this stuff is obviously unnecessary if you wanted to build one of these full-size Jeeps. So with everything added up, I got $5,000, let's see if that'll focus, $5,515. Like I said, I'm just being completely honest. Apparently I did go $515 over budget. The things that I'm gonna chalk up to where I went over budget would probably be the slave cylinder and the master cylinder and those rock sliders that I bought. I could have made them for free, but I started running out of time, and so I just went to Marketplace, and they just kind of, I really wasn't searching for sliders, but they popped up, and I was like, oh crap, you know, that's 300 bucks. You know, I should be good with my budget. Well, but I would say the $250 for the master cylinder and the slave cylinder, and the $300 for the sliders. So if you wanted to buy everything for this vehicle to replicate it, I don't know why you would want to replicate this, but if you wanted to, you could do it for $515 if you got, you know, the Jeep and the deal on the tires and this, that, and the other. But the cash that has left my hand and the money that has left my account was right at $47.65. So $4,765 is the actual price that this has cost me. So you can look at it however way that you want to. I'm gonna leave that up to y'all. In my mind, I'm under budget, but in the grand scheme of things, I may not be. And then, so if you don't include the Jeep, just minus 500 from that. But we're gonna include the Jeep just so it's a little bit closer to the 5,000. And in that 4,700 bucks, I did not include the fluids, oil filter, because I don't know how much stuff that was. Maybe we'll say 100 bucks for all the fluids. This thing leaks a lot, so I kind of have to keep putting a lot of fluids in it. But so we're not going to count that just because I don't want to. And honestly, I feel like even if I did go above budget, I still got a pretty daggone good rig out of it. And yes, somebody could buy this for $7,000 out from under me. And that's part of the rule. I knew the rules whenever I was going into this that, hey, you may have to sell this for $7,000. So, if that happens, then so be it. Somebody gets to take home dead plates. I'm not gonna lie, I'm gonna be a little jealous, but it'd be cool to see this thing somewhere else on the trails and stuff like that. And I might be coming home with a solid axle swapped Amigo. So I don't know if I said this at the beginning of the video. If somebody buys this for $7,000 out from under me, I can use that to buy somebody else's in the group. So say if I want that like super cool Amigo, I can just say, well, you know what? I'm taking the Amigo home. And then, you know, it's kind of like, what is it? White Christmas? What's that Christmas game? It's like White Elephant or something. You get to take somebody else's present and exchange it. I don't know. But it's something along the lines of that, which I think is really cool because it kind of keeps everybody like, crap, I can't really put $15,000 into this if somebody can buy it for $7,000. Because if that rule wasn't there, then, you know, we could just be going crazy. So I just got off the phone with my buddy Thomas with the 3 Amigos. And they're the ones that are building that crazy solid axle swapped Amigo, and it's really cool. You should check out his videos at Black and Blue Garage, and I believe it's on Project XJ's page. And then, oh gosh, I can't remember the other guys, but I'll put all of their YouTube channels right here so you can check out that Amigo build because it is really cool. But I talked with him, and he was saying, you know, yes, we're under a $5,000 budget, but are we incorporating the tools that we used? Because a lot of people don't have a shop. You know, I'm blessed to have a shop. You know, I'm blessed to have a lift. I got a good welder. I got a decent Amazon plasma cutter that I've used. I've used a lot of cutoff discs. And then, geez, all the welding wire that I've put into this. I'm not really accounting for the tools that I've used and the gas for the welder and stuff like that. So I believe with all of that I've spent, I'd be right there at 5,000. So either way, I'm right there at the budget, if not a little bit above it. But I'm a pretty honest guy. You know, I don't have anything to hide. Like, you know, I'm making this video right now. And whenever I go up there to the BeastWars and they ask how much I have into it, you know, I'm gonna have my little list right here that I can show. That way if anybody is questioning anything, not that I don't think anybody would, but I've got my list right here of everything that I have paid for, everything that was sponsored. I feel pretty good about it. What do y'all think? Y'all think I went over budget, or do y'all think I stayed under budget? Let me know in the comments what y'all think. So that's probably gonna do it for this video, guys. I appreciate y'all watching me go along this Jeep and kind of figure out exactly how much money I have into this. I really appreciate all of my sponsors, such as SkyJacker for hooking me up with the suspension and the shocks and everything. I appreciate Adam's Drive Shaft for hooking it up with the rear drive shaft. I appreciate Chili Water for hooking me up with the absolute best water that there is, especially when you're out here welding and cutting and grinding through rusty, gross metal. A nice cold ice water after all that, it really, really hits the spot. I really appreciate all of my buddies and my little Deadheads team that came together and helped me get this thing running. Help me get the suspension underneath it, help me chop the top. I really appreciate all the help and support, and I really appreciate y'all watching and following along of how this rig kind of came together, kind of got chopped up, whichever way you want to look at it. I really appreciate my dad who comes out here like super late at night to help me hold something while I weld it or anything like that. He is a huge reason why I get to do all this stuff. My dad is a really cool guy. I actually live right next door to him, and my shop is actually basically in his backyard. So thanks, Wild Bill. And I really appreciate Matt and Josh with BleepinJeep. They're the ones that are putting on this competition. They're really the whole reason that I built this whole Jeep right here, because if not, it probably would still be sitting behind my shop just rusting away, and I'd probably never even get to it. But this really motivated me to get off my butt and really sink my teeth into it and get it done and build it how, I'm not gonna say how I would have wanted to have built it, but it was definitely a huge challenge to try to keep it within the $5,000. So instead of just going online and just ordering stuff, I actually had to slow down, make the brackets, you know, make stuff. It definitely, I would say, helped out with my creativity. But this is probably gonna be the last video that y'all see of this Jeep in my shop before the BeastWars. Like I said, I've got to have this. Let's see, today is, what's today? So today is Wednesday, October 1st. It's actually my wife's birthday, and I'm out here in the shop. So thanks to my wife for understanding for me always being out here in my shop. But today is October 1st, and next Wednesday I have to be, so next Wednesday this time, this Jeep will be at Windrock in Eastern Tennessee. But anyway, guys, I really appreciate it. If you don't mind, hit that like button and make sure that you are subscribed so you don't miss out on any of the content of me beating this thing at Windrock Park in Eastern Tennessee. And we'll see y'all next time.